The dying girl. The stars were cold and silent, but inside the broken escape pod, a faint sound still lived. A young alien girl lay curled in the corner, her body trembling. Her skin, pale silver with faint glowing lines, had lost its color. Each breath was weak, shallow, almost her last. The pod's oxygen meter blinked red, counting down the little time she had left. She was lost. She was alone. And she was dying. Her eyes, large and bright once, stared at the endless void outside the cracked glass. She whispered in her own language, the words soft and broken. A farewell no one would hear. No one except a Terran ship passing nearby. On the bridge of the TSS horizon, Commander Elias Kane leaned forward in his chair. His eyes narrowed as the console flashed. "Captain," said the navigator, "we're picking up a faint distress signal. Almost gone." The crew exchanged looks. Most distress signals in this region were traps set by raiders. But Elias didn't look away. Something in the tone of the signal felt different, desperate, fading like the last cry of someone who had nothing left. "Bring us closer," Elias ordered. The ship shifted, its engines glowing blue as it turned toward the signal. Slowly, through the viewport, a small pod appeared, scarred, half-broken, spinning gently in the dark. "Life signs?" Elias asked. The medic scanned. "Weak, very weak. Whoever's in there won't last long." The bridge went quiet. Every second mattered now. The Horizon's grappling arm pulled the pod aboard. Sparks flew as the airlock hissed open. Smoke and frost poured out, and for a moment, no one dared move. Then they saw her. The alien girl was small, fragile, her thin arms wrapped around herself. She looked no older than a child, though her features were different from humans. Long ears, like a rabbit's, drooped down her head. Her lips were blue from the cold, her breathing slow. She tried to lift her head when the light touched her face, but it was too heavy. Her body slumped. "Get her to medbay." Elias shouted. The medics rushed forward, lifting her carefully. Her skin felt icy, her pulse almost gone. The beeping from the machines grew faster as they ran down the corridor. In the medbay, alarms. Screamed. The girl's chest stopped moving. "Flatline!" A medic cried. Elias stood at the door, his fists tight. He had seen soldiers die before, but this was different. This was someone helpless, innocent, who had been abandoned to die in the dark. The medic pressed a stim into her chest. The body jerked. Once, twice. Then faintly, a breath came. The monitors flickered. She lived, but just barely. Elias walked closer, his voice low and steady. He bent near her ear and whispered, "You're not alone anymore. Do you hear me? You're safe now?" Her eyelids trembled. Slowly, she opened them. For a second, their eyes met her alien gaze, glowing faintly in the medbay light, filled with fear, confusion, and a tiny spark of hope. Her lips moved, though no sound came. She clutched weakly at Elias's uniform sleeve, as if holding on to life itself. Hours passed. She lay under blankets, hooked to oxygen and fluids. Her body shook with cold, but she was alive. Elias stayed nearby, refusing to leave. His crew whispered that he was too attached, but he ignored them. Something about the girl stirred something deep in him. She wasn't just another rescue. She was a soul pulled back from the edge of death. When she woke again, she was still trembling. Her long ears pressed flat against her head. She whispered something in her language, soft, broken. Elias didn't understand, but he recognized the tone. Fear. He took off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. The alien fabric of her clothes was torn and useless. The jacket was far too big for her small frame, but she clutched it tightly, pressing her face against the warmth. Her breathing steadied a little. Elias smiled faintly. "You'll be all right, I promise." But outside, in the dark, danger was already moving not far away. In the void, other ships were searching. The girl had escaped them once, but they would not stop. To them, she was not a child or a survivor. She was something more, something they wanted back at any cost. And now, the Terrans who had saved her would become their next target. The Horizon sailed quietly through the stars, unaware of the hunters drawing near. In the medbay, the girl finally closed her eyes, holding the Terran jacket close, as if it was life itself. For the first time since her ship had been destroyed, she wasn't cold. For the first time, she wasn't completely alone, but her last breath was still near. And soon, the galaxy would know that when a Terran whispered hope, everything changed. Whispers of life. The medbay was quiet, except for the steady beeping of machines. The alien girl lay on the bed, wrapped in Elias's jacket, her breathing still shallow but steady. Around her, Terran doctors moved carefully, adjusting wires and scanners. Commander Elias Kane sat in a chair near her bed. He hadn't left since she was brought in. His eyes were fixed on her pale face, watching every rise and fall of her chest. Was alive for now, but the monitor still warned that her strength was fading. Suddenly, the machines spiked. Her chest shuddered, and her body went stiff. "Seizure," a medic shouted. "Hold her steady." The girl's small frame shook violently, her long ears twitching, her fingers clawing at the sheets. Elias rose quickly, his hand closing gently over hers. "Stay with us," he whispered. His voice was calm but firm. "Don't give up. You're safe." The medics rushed to stabilize her. After a long minute, the girl's body calmed again. Her eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. Her lips moved, forming a soft sound. Elias leaned closer. It wasn't Terran language. It was broken, whispered words in her own tongue. But though Elias couldn't understand the words, he understood the feeling. She was afraid. Afraid of waking up alone. Elias kept his hand on hers. "You are not alone, not anymore." For the first time, her eyes focused on him. They glowed faintly, like stars hidden behind clouds. A tear slid down her cheek. Hours passed. She dozed in and out of sleep. When she woke, she still clung to his jacket, as if afraid someone would take it away. The medic approached Elias quietly. "Commander, I don't know if she'll make it. Her vitals are too weak. Whatever she went through, it was worse than we imagined. Trauma, cold, starvation, her body is shutting down." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we keep fighting. For her. That's what Terrans do." The medic nodded, but didn't argue. Later, when the lights in the medbay dimmed for ship's night cycle, Elias noticed the girl stirring again. She whispered something, her voice trembling. He bent down, listening carefully. The words were faint, but repeated. Over and over. Not her name, not her people. A warning. Elias frowned. He called for the ship's linguist. Within minutes, the officer rushed in, holding a translator device. The machine processed the girl's weak sounds, translating into Terran common. "Danger. They are coming. They will find me." The words sent a chill through the room. Elias crouched beside her bed. Who's coming?" The girl tried to lift her hand, trembling, and pointed weakly toward the stars visible outside the medbay window. She coughed, her voice breaking. "Hunters, they will not stop." She fell back into unconsciousness, her small frame sinking. Into the bed, the crew exchanged worried looks. "She's being hunted," the linguist said softly. "And if they tracked her pod, they might already be looking for us." Elias stood tall, his face set in steel. "Then let them come. We won't abandon her." The next morning cycle, the girl woke again, weaker than before. She turned her head, and saw Elias still there. Her voice was soft, broken, but she tried to form a word in Terran. Hope. The sound was fragile, almost lost in the hum of the medbay, but Elias heard it clearly. His heart clenched. She understood. Somehow, she had grasped what he was. Giving her. Not just warmth, not just survival hope. Elias leaned close again, his voice steady and sure. Yes, hope. Hold on to it. The girl closed her eyes and smiled faintly, though her body trembled with weakness. But as the horizon sailed quietly through the void, new signals flickered on the long-range scanners. Enemy ships. Fast. Hunting. The hunters had found her trail. And now they were coming for the Terrans too. That night, while the crew prepared silently for what lay ahead, Elias sat once more beside her. She was barely awake, her breath short and uneven. He took her hand again, whispering the same words as before, a promise spoken like an anchor in the storm. You're not alone anymore. Outside, the stars waited, and in the darkness beyond them, shadows moved closer. The girl's last breath was still near, but so was the fight that would decide if she lived to see another dawn. The secret. She carried the ship, moved quietly through the stars, but the crew of the TSS Horizon felt the weight of fear pressing closer. The alien girl, barely alive, had whispered only one warning: hunters, they will not stop. Now the question burned in every mind. Why was she being hunted? In the medbay, the girl stirred again. Her eyes opened weakly, searching for the man who had stayed by her side. Commander Elias was there, as always, sitting close, watching over her. You're safe, he said softly. No one will hurt you here. Her lips trembled. She tried to speak. The translator picked up her words, broken and faint. They want what I carry. Elias leaned closer. What do you carry? Her hand lifted, shaking, and pressed against her chest. Inside? Me. The room fell silent. The medic frowned. Is it an implant? A device? The girl nodded weakly. Memory. Forbidden's truth. If they find me, they will burn your world too. Elias's face hardened. He had fought wars before, but this was something different. This was not just a girl running from enemies. This was a girl carrying a secret so dangerous, whole fleets would hunt her across the stars. What truth? He asked. Her eyelids closed halfway, her voice barely a whisper. They enslaved my people. They killed the ones who resisted, but I escaped with proof. Hidden in me. The translator spoke her words aloud, and the crew around Elias froze. Evidence. Proof. The kind of truth that could topple empires. The girl's body shook. The machines around her beeped louder. The medic quickly placed a mask over her mouth. She can't handle more stress. If she talks too much, she won't last. Elias gritted his teeth. He wanted answers, but he could see the truth in her trembling form. She was at the edge of death already. He placed a hand gently on her shoulder. Rest will protect you. Her glowing eyes met his one last time before she drifted into sleep. Later, on the bridge, Elias gathered his officers. She carries something inside her, he said. Something that proves the crimes of whoever hunts her. The navigator spoke nervously. Commander, if that's true, then we're not just rescuing a lost girl. We're standing against an empire. Then so be it, Elias said. His voice was firm, calm, but inside he knew the storm they were walking into. Scanners beeped. Multiple ships incoming, a tactical officer reported. Fast interceptors. They'll reach us within hours. Elias looked at the star map. There was no doubt. The hunters had found them. Back in the medbay, the girl woke again. Fear etched across her fragile face. She heard the alarms echo through. The ship. Her hands tightened around Elias's jacket as she whispered, They found me. Yes, Ilias said honestly. But we're not letting them take you. She shook her head weakly. You don't understand. They will kill all of you. Elias crouched beside her, his voice steady, like iron forged in fire. They will try, but Terrans don't bow. Not to slavers, not to empires, not to hunters. 4. The first time, the girl stared at him not with fear, but with wonder. She whispered, Terran. Different, he smiled faintly. You'll see just how different. The horizon prepared for battle. The crew worked in silence, loading weapons, reinforcing shields. The medics tried to stabilize the girl as best as they could, but she grew weaker with every passing hour. She whispered one last thing before sleep claimed her again. Promise, you will not let them win. Elias held her hand gently. I promise. Outside, the void burned with the light of enemy ships arriving. Sleek, black vessels shaped like blades, their engines cutting across the stars. The hunters had come, and they wanted only one thing, the girl and the secret inside her. But the Terrans were ready to show them what it meant to stand against Earth. Horizon's guns powered up. Shields hummed. The crew braced for impact, and deep inside the medbay. The dying girl whispered in her sleep, clutching the Terran jacket close. For the first time in her life, she believed she might not die in chains. Fire. In the void, the alarms rang across the TSS horizon. Red lights flashed in every corridor as the crew rushed to their battle stations. Outside, the black void of space was no longer empty. Shadows moved, sharp and deadly. The hunters had arrived. On the bridge, Commander Elias Kane stood tall, his eyes fixed on the star map. 4 enemy ships closed in, surrounding them like wolves circling prey. Shields up, Elias ordered. Weapons ready? The hum of power filled the ship as energy surged through the horizon systems. In the medbay, the alien girl stirred weakly as the ship trembled under the first wave of incoming fire. Her glowing eyes flickered open, fear clear in her fragile voice. They found me, she whispered. The medic tried to calm her, but she clung tighter to Elias's jacket, trembling. If they take me, they will kill all of you. The nurse shook her head gently. You're safe here, Commander Kane. Won't let them. The girl closed her eyes, whispering a single word in Terran. Hope. On the bridge, the first strike came. Blazing red beams shot from the hunter ships, slamming into the horizon's shields. The ship rocked violently, shields at 70%. The tactical officer shouted. Elias's voice was steady, calm like stone. Return fire. The horizon's cannons roared, firing bright blue bolts into the void. One of the hunter ships swerved, sparks flying across its hull. But the others pressed closer, firing in deadly arcs. They're trying to board us, the security chief warned. They want her alive. Elias's jaw tightened. Then they'll have to go through us first. The battle raged. The horizon spun through the dark, dodging, striking, fighting to hold ground. The crew moved with precision, but the hunters were skilled, merciless predators. That one enemy ship broke past the line, launching a harpoon-like boarding spike. It pierced the horizon's outer hull with a metallic scream. Breach on deck 5, a voice cried. Elias turned sharply. Seal bulkheads. Marines to deck 5 now. The Terran Marines rushed through the corridors, rifles in hand. The air shook with gunfire as alien raiders poured through the breach. They were tall, armored, their eyes burning with hatred. For the girl. One shouted in their harsh language. The Marines fought back, shields sparking, weapons blazing. The corridors became a storm of fire and steel. Back in the medbay, the girl could hear it all, the gunfire, the alarms, the cries of soldiers fighting for her life. She tried to rise, but her body was too weak. Her hands shook as she whispered to herself, "Why? Why do they fight for me?" The medic pressed her gently back against the bed. "Because that's what Terrans do. We don't abandon the innocent." Her eyes filled with tears. For the first time, she truly believed it. On the bridge, another. Blast shook the ship, shields failing. The tactical officer shouted, "We can't take much more." Elias's eyes narrowed. He had fought too many battles to let fear control him. Target their engines. Make them bleed. The horizon turned sharply, cannons roaring in a blazing strike. One hunter ship exploded in a burst of fire, torn apart. The crew cheered, but Elias didn't smile. 3 more remained. "They won't stop," he said coldly. "Not until they have her." Down in the corridors, the Marines fought fiercely. Bodies fell, smoke filled the air. But slowly, Terran grit pushed back the hunters. With a final charge, the Marines sealed the breach, blasting the spike free into the void. Deck 5 secured. Came the call. Cheers spread through the comms, but Elias's focus stayed sharp. The enemy regrouped. Their remaining ships circled tighter. "They're transmitting a message," the comms officer said nervously. "Put it through." Elias ordered. The screen flickered, revealing a tall alien figure with sharp eyes and cruel teeth. His voice was deep, filled with contempt. "Terran vessel," he snarled, "you have something that belongs to us. Hand over the girl, and we may let you live." Elias's voice was like steel. "She doesn't belong to you. She belongs to no one. If you want her, you'll have to fight for her." The alien's lips curled in a cruel smile. "Then you will die with her." The screen went dark. Silence filled the bridge for a moment, broken only by the hum of failing shields. Elias looked around at his crew faces, tired, afraid, but unbroken. "Listen to me," he said, his voice calm and strong. "They think we'll surrender. They think humans will bow. But we don't bow. Not today. Not ever. We fight for her, and for every voice they tried to silence." The crew's eyes lit with fire. The horizon braced for one last desperate stand. In the medbay, the girl whispered again, though no one could hear her over the roar of battle. "Terrans are different." Outside, the void burned as the horizon charged once more into the fire. The hunters wanted only one thing, the girl and the secret she carried. But they had made one mistake. They had awakened the fury of Earth. The price of hope. The void outside still glowed with fire. The TSS Horizon had survived the first clash, but the hunters were not finished. 3 enemy ships remained, circling like predators. Inside the ship, the air was heavy. The crew patched the damage, sealed the decks, and carried the wounded to medbay. The smell of smoke lingered in the corridors, mixed with the silence of fear. But Elias Kane stood tall. His crew looked to him, and he gave them the same words again and again. "Hold the line. We fight for her." In the medbay, the alien girl opened her glowing eyes again. Her body was weak, but her mind burned with fear and guilt. She looked around at the Terran soldiers lying wounded on the floor, groaning in pain. She whispered, "They bleed because of me." The medic frowned. "No, they bleed because the hunters chose war. You didn't bring this on them." But the girl shook her head. Tears ran down her cheeks. "If I was gone, they would live. I should leave." A voice answered her, strong and firm. Elias stood at the door. "Don't ever say that again." She turned her eyes to him, trembling. "You think their lives mean nothing?" Elias asked, stepping closer. "They fight because they believe in something bigger than themselves. That's what Terrans do. We don't fight because it's easy. We fight because it's right." The girl's lips quivered. "But why me?" Elias's gaze softened. "Because you carry hope, and hope is Worth every price. The girl lowered her eyes. Slowly, she reached into the pocket of the jacket he had given her. From it, she pulled out a small crystal shard, glowing faintly. Elias frowned. "What is that?" Her voice was weak but clear. "The truth." The medic leaned closer, scanning it. "Commander, this isn't just data. This is an encoded memory. Core, old technology, very old." The girl nodded faintly. "Inside is proof of what they did, my people's slavery, their killings, the hidden camps. If this reaches the galaxy, they will fall." The room fell silent. Everyone understood now. She wasn't just a refugee. She was the carrier of a weapon more powerful than guns or ships, the truth. On the bridge, Elias studied the data with his officers. The crystal contained images, files, voices, all undeniable proof of slavery, genocide, and betrayal. The Khan's officer whispered, "If we broadcast this, every world will rise against them." The navigator added, "But if they catch us first, they'll destroy it. And us." Elias's eyes were hard. "Then we'll make sure they never catch us." But the hunters were growing desperate. There, ships pushed closer, firing again and again. The horizon shook under the impact. Sparks rained from the ceiling, and smoke filled the bridge. Shields collapsing. Engines failing. The crew struggled to keep the ship alive, but the enemy pressed harder. The hunters wanted the girl, and they would tear the horizon apart to take her. Down in the medbay, the girl clutched the crystal to her chest. Her breath came shallow and weak. She whispered, "I should have died before they found me." Elias knelt beside her bed. "If you had died, the truth would die too. You survived for a reason. You gave us a reason." She met his eyes, glowing, faintly with tears. "You gave me hope. No one ever did that before." Her fingers tightened around the crystal. "If I fall, promise me you will carry this. Promise me the truth will live." Elias gripped her hand firmly. "I promise, but you're not falling. Not while I still stand." The next wave hit. The horizon shook violently. One console exploded, throwing a crewman across the bridge. The lights flickered, and the alarm screamed. The tactical officer shouted, "They're preparing a kill shot. We won't survive the next barrage." For a moment, silence filled the bridge. Death loomed close. Elias's voice broke through, calm and unshaken. "Then we'll give them something to remember." The horizon's guns turned. Energy surged through the weapons, brighter than before. The crew braced themselves. "Target their command ship," Elias ordered. The cannons fired, blazing blue. Fire across the void. The enemy flagship reeled under the impact, its hull cracking. But before the horizon could strike again, another beam slammed into them. The ship shuddered violently. Systems failed. Darkness swept through the decks. Shields gone. "We've lost engines." The horizon drifted in space, wounded, smoking, burning. The hunters closed in for the kill. In the medbay, the girl weakly pressed Elias's jacket against her face. She whispered, "I'm sorry." Elias knelt beside her again, his hand resting gently on hers. "Don't be sorry," he said quietly. "Be ready, because this fight isn't over." Her glowing eyes met his. For the first time, her fear was mixed with something else. Belief that the horizon was crippled, the hunters closing in. But Terrans had not yet given up, and the galaxy was about to learn what it cost to stand against Earth. The dawn of hope, the TSS horizon, hung broken in the void. Its hull burned, engines were dead, and half its decks were in ruins. But even in silence, even in death's shadow, the ship had achieved the impossible. The girl's crystal had spread its truth like fire in the wind. Across space, comes relays carried the message. Worlds far and near received the data. Billions of eyes saw what the hunters had hidden for centuries. The screams, the chains, the executions, the betrayal. The galaxy had turned its gaze, and it could not look away. On the bridge, Elias Kane stood in the smoke-filled chamber, blood on his face, but fire in his eyes. Around him, his crew waited, their hands gripping the dead controls. They were ready for the end, but the end did not come. The hunters' ships, once merciless, now faltered. Messages flooded their channels, not from all eyes, but from their own people. Accusations, condemnations, whole fleets refusing orders. The alien commander appeared one last time, his face twisted with rage. You think this will save you, Terran? You've only doomed yourself. You made enemies of us all. Elias stared back, his voice steady. No, I showed them the truth. And truth is a weapon you cannot stop. The screen went dark. The hunter fleet pulled back, their command broken. For the first time, the horizon was not hunted. In the medbay, the girl lay still, her faint glow dimming. The medic worked desperately to stabilize her, but she was fading fast. Her breath came shallow, weak. Elias entered, kneeling beside her. He placed his hand gently on hers. You did it, he whispered. The galaxy heard you. Her lips moved, barely audible. Then it was worth it. Her eyes flickered open one last time, glowing faintly. She looked at him, not with fear, but with peace. You gave me hope, and I gave it back. And with that, her body went still. The room fell silent. Elias bowed his head, grief heavy on his chest. But in her stillness, he saw victory. She had not died in chains. She had died free. Weeks later, the horizon limped back to port, escorted by ships that once belonged to enemies. The broadcast had ignited revolts, uprisings, rebellions on every world the hunters controlled. The hunter empire, built on slavery. And lies collapsed in flames. The girl's name became a whisper across the stars. She was remembered not as a victim, but as a spark. The spark that lit a galaxy. On Earth, crowds filled the great square as the survivors of the horizon stepped onto the platform. Their uniforms were torn, their bodies scarred, but their spirits unbroken. Elias stood before them, the weight of sacrifice heavy in his voice. She was alone, lost, dying, and we could have turned away. But we did not, because Terrans don't turn away from those who need us. Not then, not now, not ever. The crowd roared, their voices shaking the air. Across the galaxy, statues were built. Not of kings, not of soldiers, but of a small alien. Girl holding a crystal of light. Children of 1,000 worlds grew up hearing her story. How one life saved by Terrans changed everything. The hunters had tried to erase her people. Instead, she erased the hunters. But on quiet nights, Elias still remembered her in the medbay, trembling and afraid, clutching his jacket like it was the only warmth in the universe. He remembered her glowing eyes, her soft voice whispering, "Terrans are different." And he remembered his promise that the truth would live. It had. And because of her, the galaxy would never be the same again. Years later, when people spoke of the horizon's last stand, they called it by one name, the dawn of hope. A moment when a broken ship, a dying girl, and a handful of humans gave light to a galaxy drowning in darkness. And though the girl's body had been lost, her story lived forever, because Earth remembers. And Earth fights not just for itself, but for all who cannot fight. *The end.